Welcome to another episode of Playing with Inference, our podcast about the intersection of Gen AI and games. We're in the middle of the back-to-back SF and LA Tech Weeks, and we had the honor and pleasure of hosting events during both. With the SF event behind us, we thought we'd recap it, talk about what we enjoyed from it, and preview what's happening in LA. To kick us off, what did we think of the event?
So I think what was really cool, and we've talked about this, Aaron, is we had demos, but it was a good mixture of we show things up front with a quick 60-second, and people now knew what to expect on the demo tables, and then they went and played those demos. I think that was great because then people were seeking like the type of games that they were or play tests they wanted to do, and then people will huddle around these tables instead of being like relegated to the back or just like some tables serving the majority of the people.
Oh, that was a good point too, is that, so for the setup, because we had the tables that were, to your point, like the demos themselves were in the middle of things.
Yes.
As opposed to off to the side. And so it did create this almost kind of dynamics, but if anything, there were so many people and it was so crowded, you could maybe not know where the demos were. Like it was just a sea of people. So we could have actually had maybe some sort of flags or something like demo is here.
Yeah, and that was the thing. So when I walked in, it's definitely, and huge kudos to Wayne for walking in there and just, okay, what are we doing? What are we setting up? And for providing that space. I think it was really good for the space, for the amount of people we had, for the demos we had. And I would agree. I think definitely if we had, and that might even just be the people that were coming and demoing, having more for their game, getting a banner or helping them set up a banner for something like that, where it's like we definitely wanted to promote those games, I think, but we had so much interest in all of the demos that were there and even the demos that weren't officially there. I think everyone there was there to experience the games, hear what was going on. So I think I was really happy.
I also think there were two things that really helped. So one is the way we put demos meant that there was someone always playing, but then when you put demo tables, there's like the people playing and then the little huddle behind it that they're watching, but then they start commenting and then that becomes a discussion. That worked well because basically since everything was in the center, the huddles became where people were talking. So it was both a way to see the games and then it's conversation starters. And then the conversations were great because I don't know why, but we didn't get that many rando from Tech Week personas. It was a lot of people who were in the industry, were building, or were like really enthusiastic about this. Like last year, we organized something like this, and we did get a fair share of just randos from Tech Week. I don't know what other events sucked the air out of all the randos. Nothing against randos, but that meant like the conversations were a little more interesting.
I will admit that it wasn't until I started planning my Tech Week agenda that I realized that the event wasn't that far away, but it also wasn't like in the like several events were essentially walking distance, and I did have to get over there. So I wonder if it was like you just had to do that little bit of extra effort that the people that showed up really wanted to be there. But it was a lot of people. Like we really had great turnout. It had great energy, and the demos. So it was 5 demos, and it felt like we went back and forth on like how many demos should we have and how much space do we have. I feel like it ended up being a pretty good number. If it had only been 2 or 3 demos, then that's maybe not enough to occupy your time. 5 demos felt like you might not even have the time to see everything, but you could, if you made a point, like you could see everything. If it were like 10 or 12, you just wouldn't get through them all.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. And it was fun also that we had a mix of folks who actually had a fair bit, like Little Umbrellas shipped stuff. They're out, right? And then we had other stuff where this is very raw, very early, first time being seen. And so it was nice to see the mix there, the bravery for those that were showing their stuff off early. But also, I think the chance that we were showing stuff that, to be honest, I was hoping to hit a certain level of authenticity, right? Of people like really trying to do stuff. Folks who you were trying to give them a chance to be seen and inspire others. And I think it was really great to see the new up-and-coming stuff that people have been doing.
Yeah, I also like the spectrum. Just to enumerate who we had there. We had Bitmagic, we had Nilo, we had Liminal Skies, we had Little Umbrella, and we had Oasis. it's like maps a little bit of the how much of a game engine are you versus how much of a game, like in a very spectrum wise. Like if I understand correctly, Oasis is much more like you're producing games, and then Nilo is a little bit of like you play while you create the games, and Bitmagic's it's a game where you create. And then you move all the way until you pass through Liminal Skies, which is tiny glade with people, and then you go to Little Umbrella, which is just like a pure party games. And I thought that was very interesting to be able to traverse that spectrum.
Yeah, I was coming, and it's like for me, this is kind of the first time seeing a lot of them, hearing a lot of them, and I did get the chance to go and get my hands on all 5 of the demos. And I think one of the things really was just, especially with those first 4, and then of course Little Umbrella being the game, is just different ways of you're enabling people to tell stories. And like with Nilo, it's much more, it's like you're getting your hands dirty and you're building the primitives and building all the assets, but then it has the Gen AI built in. And then on the other end is Liminal, where it's like a lot of the things are more, it really is just a world building sim, and you're just generating the stories and the NPCs, and then the two in the middle. And so it was really interesting to just see that as a game developer and as people that are someone interested in making games, what you can do with Gen AI and how that is being used, and what are the different ways that each of the platforms is using those. Is like letting someone come in and, okay, I want to have this story to tell. I want to create these characters, create these worlds, and how that plays out in all of the different platforms side by side.
Yeah, I also think like it was within that spectrum, it was a good sampler of like where it plays a role. So just to grab 2 examples, right? If you take the demo that Liminal Skies or Liminal Experiences provided, Liminal Skies, they're using AI mostly to power the NPCs that inhabit your little diorama. And then the actual creation of the town itself is more like handcrafted proc gen type of systems. Not as the final result, but that's what they presented. But it was interesting to see, okay, you get to build this little sky village or sky island, and then you populate it with these characters that you yourself are also like crafting and then bring to life with AI. And then you have Nilo, where it was more about all of these asset creations and the little scripts where the AI were taking a role. So it was also cool to see that Nilo works with Uthana to provide the animation part, so you can animate your little and how to say character. So you already see these ecosystems bubble up. That was very nice to see.
Yeah. I also think, so the thing that I've been saying, and I said at the event too, is I just want to see more AI games. Like I want to see more experiments. I want to see more things in the hand of players. I want to see. It's great to see the range that we just saw, and all the other people who were there who had their own experiments, who were talking what they were interested in. I really want to see more of this in the hands of players, because I'm so curious. If we think of that range, for example, do we find that I don't know if it's product market fit. Do we find that like the magic is in these polished game experiences that we're able to create, like Little Umbrella? Is it as much that it creates new kind of game experiences? Is it more about the creation tools and that's interactive from the players as creators? Is it a mix of? I just want to see more experiments out there so we can understand what, from a player perspective, what really resonates, right? And it's maybe more than one thing, but we've only got a few experiments out. And so we're seeing what's the next wave of this stuff that's going to be coming. And it's interesting that to your point, like it's still a range of these things.
Yeah.
Though I would say there's a little more orientation towards how do you empower the player to create as part of it. The playful creation, that's still the phrase we're using, right?
Yes, and I have to give kudos to the creator who ever exposed me to this phrase, because Nuno from Illinois was the first guy who was like, "Oh yeah, playful creation." I was like, "Oh wow, that captured it very well."
What was the coolest conversation you had at the event?
So I actually hadn't got at the last event we did at Supercell. I actually didn't get a chance to talk to Josh English, and so that was one of my one goals when I was there, was getting a chance to talk to Josh a little bit, just hearing what he's thinking he might be up to. And I think also just really, I think one of the things that was funny is just realizing he hadn't presented before. And he was not what I was like, when I saw him at Supercell, I was like, oh, this guy is really, and even from his talk, he's like, this guy, we're talking about cost. He's a really nice guy. When I saw him at Supercell, I was like, this guy's kind of intimidating. He seems really buttoned up from this impressive sounding company. And I'm like, no, he's a really great guy. He's really friendly. So I was glad I made a point of stopping him on the way in.
That's nice. I would say there were two. So the first one is, maybe it's a bit of a cop out, but because it was a kind of a repeated point of talking to a number of folks that night or that afternoon or whatever it was, there was just so much enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Of just so many ideas and so many things that were like, oh, that's cool, and people like riffing off of each other on those ideas, or being like, yeah, I tried something like this. So there were just, was it a particular single conversation of those that definitely there were some great ones that stood out, but it was that theme repeated over for me a lot.
Yeah.
For me personally, I have an ongoing question that I'm going around of, like you said, like, why aren't we seeing more AI games, and what do we need to do? And I got into some very great, healthy debates with a couple of folks about that one, particularly Rich Sun, who's been on our podcast before. And I have this kind of ongoing debate because we have some slightly different ideas of what the challenges are. And that's always fun to revisit. And it's fun also because we've now been working in the space long enough that we're learning along the way. Right? Everybody's learning together. So that's another part of it. That's okay. We had this conversation 6 months ago. So, what's changed, right? Do you finally agree with me? Kind of thing. That's a lot of fun.
I think for me, the broad theme was, there's still, like you said, there's a lot of experimentation going. So there were two conversations that are, obviously we don't have infinite, like at Clementine, we don't have infinite resources. So there's a lot of the things that we would love to explore and try and do, but we just can't, we don't have the time. Or the manpower. And then I run into people and they're talking about things that they're either doing or considering doing that are like in that adjacent space. I'm like, fuck yeah, someone is doing it. Like I'm like just genuinely like happy. Like I was talking to Rylan, who is building now a sort of AI agent Mars colony thing. And I was bouncing ideas of how we did like a small colony sim type of game and where we would have taken it, and I would love to him steal everything of what we were doing to just make it happen. And I was talking to another guy who's building a real-time strategy game, and we've been wanting to do what we're doing with this command your own monster type of thing, but scale it to a bunch of like a bunch of units. And I'm like, dude, you should do something like this. So again, we were just bouncing off ideas of how do you do this in a real-time strategy setup. And then I was talking to, I think it's Timothy Johnson, who used to work with Will Wright at Spore. And again, we've been thinking a lot of like, how do we create some combination of procedural generation with generative AI creature creator setup for our own game, like in the eventual case. And he was like, yes, it's like prime time for, how do you say, for doing like a Spore creator creature revisited. And then at the same time, too, from Layer appeared. So now the conversation was very interesting because we had like different pieces of the puzzle. So I think there's a lot of these. Again, there's a lot of not enough exploration is going on, but there is happening in different ventures. It's just so nice to see like the glimpses of that adjacent space.
Okay, so I will say, back when we started to organize this event, and we're like, okay, we want to invite some demos in, and one of the first questions has the community grown over the last year or so? It was a question we had. In fact, it precipitated some of the questions I've had of, where are all the AI games? Are they out there? Why aren't there more of them? And I think one thing I walked away with that was really great is just how many new people I met this last week at these events.
Yeah.
Because while it's great to bump into folks, familiar faces and everything else, a sign of health of a community is that we're getting an influx of new faces and new people coming with new ideas. And I'll admit, there was a moment or two in the lead up of this that sometimes I'm a little worried about. Are we just going to basically see like all the people we've seen before just show up, and it's great, we all catch up? But like a healthy, growing community should mean that there's a lot of people I've never seen before show up at these events. And I definitely felt like we started to see some new folks, and that was very encouraging for me.
So I sort of agree. I still think the amount of people that I knew in that room were larger than I wished. I still am like, again, there's a lot of people I didn't know, which is fantastic. Many of them are newcomers, and I want them to succeed, or I want anyone in that room to really hit it big, because that's the way you grow, right? If otherwise, sucks air out of it. So
Right.
I am just cheering for everybody who is working in the space, and happy to help in any way I can.
Absolutely agree. And so for what it's worth, and for anyone that's actually listening to this, whether you attended the event or not, please do connect to us, whether it's on any of the networks, Discord, LinkedIn, or something, because I know that like we are really interested in either featuring more people on the podcast or just helping out in general. Because I absolutely agree, Ramon, that rising tide lifts all boats right now. And I had told someone else that part of the goal of this was, part of what was fun about it was, I mean, there was an authenticity. We did have a lot of builders there,
Yeah.
right? I've gone to a lot of Tech Week events this week, and coming up from Los Angeles, there is something about the energy in the Bay Area at times of just raw ambition and just like we're going to change everything and make all these crazy ideas true. And I'll be honest, particularly in the AI space, there's some hype. It can feel like a bubble. It is not immune to a certain cynicism. I
Yes.
went to events that were very oriented around this is a gold rush. Sell them, sell those picks and shovels while it's lasting, folks. And the event that we were building, and I think the effort we're trying to do is to really build a community of builders that will endure. And while it would have been, there are different types of events. We could have had an event with a lot of VCs and a lot of publishers at it, but there was something nice about builders and creators coming together that were really focused on that, as opposed to, okay, but then how am I going to get my exit?
Yeah.
Because a community, sorry, like in the open source communities, particularly in my time at Apache, one thing that we really focused on in that organization was community over code. That ultimately what endured, unfortunately, whether you liked it or not as an engineer, wasn't the best code, but was the most healthy community.
Yeah.
And the people, because it was people using it and contributing that kept it alive. And the same thing's going to be true here, right? Like a community that has new members coming in, that support each other, that learn and grow from each other, is the sort of thing that's going to actually endure whatever kind of hype cycles we come through. So that's something I think that I was excited to invest in through this, not just the podcast, but the other kind of events that we're doing.
Yeah, I also think I agree with you. There was a marked difference in the enthusiasm and spirit of the people who were there versus a lot of other Tech Week events. It reminds me of like when in the first episode that we released, when Nabil is talking about like how it feels. It's closer to a band of pirates, on his own words, than a gold rush at the moment. And then gives us a little bit of opportunity of laying some foundations how this culture evolves. But yeah, I really came out very excited and energized by that mixer. Yeah. So I want to give special shout out to the sponsors, Convex and Artificial Agency. There are few companies that I like shield for free, and Convex is one of those. Like every time it comes up, I'm just like a fanboy. Like I love using Convex. It's just unbelievably. Yes, this is not an ad. I promise. If you're doing web dev, try Convex. Thank you so much to Wayne, who they were so nice. They helped beyond what we asked for on setting up the venue and receiving people and getting name tags. Like Aaron was like 10 minutes before, we should have gotten name tags. I'm like, I did not think about that. And Wayne was there with the Wayne tag with the name tags. So like, damn, yes, thank you. Also, Brian from Artificial Agency was so nice. I have not used their product, but it looks very cool. They also have some sick demos out there, or at least the videos. They are sponsoring also the LA event, I believe.
They'll be demoing at the LA event.
They'll be demoing at the LA event. If you're in LA, check it out. Oh, maybe we can talk about that. What about the LA event?
Yes. Thursday at 4 p.m., we're running another AI games mixer. It's part of the LA Tech Week official calendar, so you can find it there. We've got another great set of sponsors and demos on these. We're really lucky to be able to work with AI LA and Todd, who helps, and his team, probably the most active artificial intelligence kind of group and meetup space in Los Angeles. It tends to orient quite a bit towards the filmmaking side. They run a AI filmmaking event each year. They've done that, I think, 3 years now. But Todd and his team are just prolific in bringing people together, which is really important in the LA area because of the sensitivity, and he navigates it really well. The sensitivity of like, how do we honor the creative exercises and the creative industries and how they're being impacted, and how do we move forward together? And so Todd's been at the forefront of that. And so we're going to be at one of their venues in Venice. And then we have another one of our previous guests, Stephen Perone, Pickford AI is going to be helping to sponsor with some of the beverages and food, and we'll also be doing a bit of a demo too. And I am a big fan. I am a huge fan of the stuff they're doing. I think it's a lot of fun. I love the technique they're taking. I'm really excited to see them and what they've been working on. So if you're not heard of Pickford, I would definitely check them out. And if you ever get a chance to see one of their screenings, absolutely take it. We have another set of great demos as well. So we're going to have, let's see, Artificial Agency will actually be demoing. We've got Bitmagic is coming back around, so the folks in LA will be able to see that. Stephen Perone with Pickford is going to be there. And I need to look up the rest off the top. Oh, Liminal will be around again. So we got some recurring ones between each. We got a great team. Garden in the Machine is also doing narrative and AI characters. They span a little bit of across the entertainment space. They've looked into some applications on not only games, but also for like filmmaking and other creative exercises. So we're going to see maybe a little wider range in Los Angeles of just not games, but just entertainment in general. Those folks, Parag and them, have did a demo at one of the AI on the lot in the past. And so it'll be great to see some of the things that they've done there. There's a few other AI and entertainment events next week for Tech Week. So I would recommend for those that are planning the week to look at the calendar, because I'll be trying to show up at a few of those. So hopefully I'll catch up with some other people there. So what event are we running next, Ramon?
When are we doing our next event?
I have a thing for in real events because they're just so much more energy when you talk to people in person. But I've been wanting to do a game jam / hackathon for the longest time. And at some point we have to organize one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are things happening in the background there.
Okay.
So
all right. Do you want to disclose that to the public, or at least to us?
No, because it's not ready yet.
Okay.
But I think we're going to see at least one of those coming up, like a game jam. And I'm really excited for that. Other things are coming up. I and a few other folks in this space will be going to, there are some upcoming events that we're not directly sponsoring or anything, but that are around the AI and Games Conference in London in November. Is going to have a lot of great people together. And I've been talking to folks that went to the Supercell event. I'm sure they'll be doing more stuff.
Yeah.
And so that actually, the Supercell event that we were at, there were some other folks from LA, and I've been in touch with those people, and they've been like, okay, how do we do more stuff in Los Angeles around this? So I'm very excited about, we'll see what happens next Thursday with the Tech Week event.
Yeah.
But I think we might start to see a little momentum between what we're doing here with JM&T and Playing With Inference, what like the AI LA is doing, and a few others to maybe build a little community there in Southern California as well too.
Yeah, and also so that's on the more geographical thing, but on the hackathon game jam, Supercell has been active. There's an upcoming hackathon in Supercell Hackathon. Player 2, which we haven't brought in the podcast, but we should, is running a game jam right now. And Playful AI is also organizing a game jam. So there are, and these are all like AI games.
Yeah, and speaking of that, InWorld is collaborating with some folks to do a consumer AI kind of accelerator incubator that I think applications, I don't think they're open yet. I think.
Oh yeah, I saw.
I need to go. I maybe share the information for folks that are listening. There is a lot of activity, and these are all areas to get connected into the broader ecosystem, or might be useful. We'll try to share what we can, and if someone hears something else, we'd love to hear about it and share it with the community too.
Join our Discord. If this is the type of chatter you like, join the Discord and argue with us there about, what were you arguing, Aaron?
Why aren't there enough AI games?
Yeah, show us your game and show us how this is going to solve why aren't there that many AI games.
All right. This has been great.
All right. See you guys in a bit, or
Yeah.
next week, I think.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the full episode. We really hope you enjoyed the discussion. It would help us out a ton if you subscribed to the show on your platform of choice, as well as shared it with folks you think would find it useful. You can always check out playingwithinference.com to get in contact with us, join our Discord, or just find the links to the episodes. See you next week.